The Honourable Member for Toronto Danforth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm pleased to be able to rise today and to speak in support of Bill C-84. It's a step forward on animal welfare issues, and we have so much more to do, but I'm happy to be able to mark the start of the move forward towards better and stronger animal welfare legislation. There are other bills that I'm expecting to see shortly in this place coming from the other place, such as on the captivity of whales and dolphins, on shark finning, and on testing of cosmetics to animals. And those are all also important steps forward on animal welfare issues. I'm really looking forward to participating in those debates and voting in support of it, because animal welfare issues are very important to me. And I'm a member of the Liberal Animal Welfare Caucus. I would really like to thank the members from Brossard-Saint-Lambert and Steveston-Richmond Hill for their leadership role on that caucus, because it's an important way for us to get more information and to be able to learn more about what we can do to move things forward. It's been definitely a source of learning and advocacy for us. So as I said, this bill is a step forward, and what it does is it ends the sexual abuse of animals, and it also gets rid of the cruel, cruel practice of animal fighting. And those are important first steps forward for us. It's hard for me to believe that we even need this legislation, and yet we do. Animal fighting, I was reading a little bit more about this. Once you read about it and you see pictures, it's really hard to get those images out of your mind. It really centers on why we need to take action. I was looking at the Ontario SPCA website about dog fighting. It described it this way. Dog fighting is a sadistic contest in which two dogs, specifically bred, conditioned, and trained to fight, are placed in a pit, generally a small arena enclosed by plywood walls, to fight each other for the spectators' entertainment and gambling. Now, this bill goes beyond just dog fighting, but with a focus on dogs for the moment. And what I was reading about, dogs in fighting, they die. They die as part of this fighting. And it's not about just the dogs in the fight themselves, but in the training process before it. There are dogs that are called bait dogs. So U.S. awareness about bait dogs that are part of the training process really came to the fore when there was a female pit bull, she was named Turtle, was found on a roadside. And found on the side of the road with scars and wounds. And the reason she had all those scars and wounds is that she had actually been used to be attacked over and over again by dogs training for these fights as part of this contest, this cruel contest. So this dog, Turtle, was rescued, and so I guess that makes her a lucky one, despite the tremendous pain that she went through. But other animals are not able to be rescued, and that's why we need this type of legislation. And that is why I can speak so strongly in support for that need, because we should never see that happen to animals at all. I was also taken by another article I read in the Globe and Mail, which actually mentioned that U.S. dog owners come to Canada for dog fighting because we are seen as having lax legislation. I can't even imagine that we would be seen as a place where someone would think, oh, I'll go to Canada because it has lax legislation on animal cruelty. That's something that we can't let happen, and it's something that this takes a step forward on preventing. Canadians care, and that's why this is so important too. 2 weeks ago, I went to one of my local churches, a Metropolitan Community Church in Toronto, and we had a Blessing of the Animals service. People brought their animal friends to church where there was blessing for the animals, but they also got to talk about the important roles that our animal friends have in our lives. And it was also a time to talk about what kind of advocacy can we do in support of animals in our community. I'd really like to thank Kimberly Carroll of Animal Justice, because she made a call to action that day and talked to us about the need to give voice for animals where they cannot speak for themselves. And that's what we're doing today in the process of this debate, Mr. Speaker, is today's one more step in trying to give voice for those animals. So I know it's important to people who live in Toronto Danforth, certainly important for me. And it's important about how we want to see our community in our country. If we want to just think about the words of Albert Einstein, he said, "Our task must be to free ourselves by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty." And that really quite touches me as to how I want to see the circle of compassion and expanding it, which I believe this legislation and the other bills that we will be seeing coming from the other place move us closer to. And Gandhi said, "The greatness of a nation and its moral progress can be judged by the way its animals are treated." And all of those are good points of balancing out how do we want to see ourselves as a community. Another aspect of this bill, I was talked about the animal fighting part, is about bestiality. And that's another important part of what this bill covers. In 2016, there was a Supreme Court of Canada decision. And in it, bestiality, as it's currently in our criminal code, was said to not include non-penetrative acts. There was an important dissent that was written by Supreme Court of Canada Justice Rosie Abella, but the majority found, and I would like to quote the decision because it's important, this legislation directly responds to it. The court decision said, "Penetration has always been understood to be an essential element of bestiality. Parliament adopted that term without adding a definition of it, and the legislative history and evolution of the relevant provisions showed no intent to depart from the well-understood legal meaning of the term. Moreover, the courts should not, by development of the common law, broaden the scope of liability for the offense of bestiality. Any expansion of criminal liability for this offense is within Parliament's exclusive domain." And then it also went on in decision to say, "Courts will only conclude that a new crime has been created if the words used to do so are certain and definitive." And I would submit, Mr. Speaker, that is what this decision does. It provides clear, certain, definitive wording. It's quite simple, in fact. Though our government response to that decision is that we amend Section 160 of the Criminal Code by adding subsection 4, which states, "In this section, bestiality means any contact for a sexual purpose with an animal." It's simple, it's certain, it's definitive. And that is why it responds quite well to the concerns that have been raised in that case. By dealing with this, we're increasing our circle of compassion. And I say that because I also want to talk about, and I know that we've heard a bit about it earlier today, that there has been seen to be a link between animal cruelty and violence towards people. So the Humane Canada Conference in 2017, it was held, it brought together experts to talk about these links and how they can be better addressed. In fact, similar conferences have been held in the United States. There will be a conference by Humane Canada on this issue in November of this year in Toronto once again. Again, talking about the link between violence against animals and the link to violence against people. As they state, and when they set out the purpose of their conference, they state, "Violence against animals and violence against people are not distinct and separate problems. Rather, they are part of a larger pattern of violent crimes that often coexist. Research shows a significant correlation between animal cruelty and crimes of domestic violence, the physical and sexual abuse of children, sexual assault, and other violent crimes." And in fact, when I was reading and learning a little bit more about this, one of the things that I saw is that, in fact, in domestic assault situations and domestic violence, sometimes the threat of violence to an animal friend in that household is one of the ways that control is exerted over the domestic partner as part of the violence. So it shows how it's a more complex issue and about the circle of passion encapsulating our entire community. We need to end animal cruelty. It's as simple as that. We just need to end animal cruelty. It's something that I personally feel passionately about. I'm happy to see that we are here to debate it and to discuss it, and I'm looking forward to seeing this bill move forward. I want to thank the member for Beaches East York, who raised many of these issues in his bill that he brought to this place earlier in this session. And this I'm seeing as one more step. We need to move it forward. Let's do it. Let's taking the steps that we need to move forward on animal cruelty. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.